Hi class. Today I'm going to show you how to take the simple geometric animal that we created, and we're going to work at taking it from the simple version, which could be used for all sorts of things, this one on the left, and we're going to apply an interesting color palette, and we're also going to make it a little more detailed. Okay, so I'm going to teach you how to do that today, and I want you to follow along with this fox. So I'm going to go find this fox. This guy should be in the source files on the Google Drive. So if you go to band, you might have to scroll down because this might not be recent for you, but there will be a place where you can find source files, and this geometric animal shape builder file will be in there for you, so you can download that. It's an AI file. Then you can open it and follow along with me. So over here in the layers palette, the first thing we want to do to get started is we want to lock the background, and we want to lock the silhouette so that those things, we can't move or adjust those, because the thing we're going to be working with today are the things in this top layer, these details. Okay, so first we want to lock those two layers. So the next thing we want to do is we want to bring in a color palette to work with, and I do have another little tutorial on how to make color palettes online. So if you don't know how to make a color palette, go watch that video first, and then you'll know what I'm talking about here. So I'm going to place one of my color palettes. So I'm going to go to File, Place, and that's just Shift Command P. And if I go to my Illustrator Basics folder and then to Source Files, I have several different palettes in here. I'm going to pick one of the ones that I designed specifically for this fox. I don't know, let's pick a fun one. I'm going to use this one, and I'm going to push place. Now there's two ways for you to place this. The first way is just you can click, and it's going to place that at its original size. So the palette is this big, and it's okay if it comes in big. You just push V, go to the corner. I usually hold Shift to make sure it stays a rectangle, and you're just going to make that smaller, okay? So I can't remember if we've talked about this or not, but there's two different parts to our workspace in Illustrator. So if you can see the thin black line around my fox here, that is my artboard. So that is where I'm actually drawing. Okay, you can kind of think about this as a piece of paper in your sketch pad. And then over here in the gray, if you zoom out a little bit, we can kind of call this our desktop or our work area. And this is where you might put reference photos. You might put color palettes like I have here. You would just put some things that you're working with out here on the edge. So we've talked about how when you export this, you have to export just the artboard, and that will just export what's on your sketch pad here. So anyway, we're going to bring in this color palette, and we're going to use this in just a little bit to spruce up this drawing. So what we want to do is we want to make this fox look a little bit more realistic, I suppose. So we want to give him a white tail. We want to have a little bit of white on his chest and belly, and then some black feet and a little bit on his face. So to do that, I am going to use the Shape Builder tool. And if you haven't used the Shape Builder tool, I did do a little tutorial on that as well. So I'm going to start with the tail, and I'm going to come up here, and this shape here, this one, is the one that I'm going to cut into two shapes, and I'm going to cut it from here to here. So you can use a couple different tools to do that. You can use the pen tool, or the curvature tool, or a straight line tool. So I'm going to use the pen tool today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come outside this shape over here, and I'm going to make a line that comes over each side just to show you how this works. So now I have a line. I'm going to push V so that this line is selected. Then I'm going to hold Shift because I want to select this piece of the tail, because I want this to cut into two separate shapes. So I'm going to zoom in. You can do that. Command plus, and then I'm going to use the space bar to move this up. The shape builder tool is the one with 2 circles and the little arrow. So I'm going to push the shape builder tool. And this is going to split whatever I had selected into different items. So now I have this top shape, I have this bottom shape, but I also have these 2 little lines on the side. Now I want to get rid of these lines on the side, so I'm going to hold Option and click on those to get rid of those. Okay, so now I have 2 shapes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and fill this top shape. So over here on Properties, you might have been on Layers, so now you want to click Properties. I'm going to go into my fill here. I'm going to pick white. And I'm going to click on the top section of that tail. Now this is all with the shape builder still selected, okay? I have 2 shapes. I have the top part of the tail and the bottom part of the tail. And that's give me a little bit more realistic look for the tail. Now I'm going to go back and change the orange of this fox later. Right now we're just cutting the shapes. So now I'm going to work on this other part, this other section of the tail. So I'm going to select the pen tool. I'm going to draw a line. So another thing that you can do is you can go from different points on this fox's tail. So I'm going to select this point. Oops. Just kidding, that's going to subtract. See how that subtracted that point? I'm going to have to come to the side here. The way to do that would be to select the line segment tool, and it will let you draw a line from anchor point to anchor point. Sorry about that. Let's try that again. So to draw a line from an anchor point to an anchor point, you're going to have to push line segment. We'll go from here to here. Now that line segment is selected. I want to select this other part of the tail, so I'm going to push V. I'm going to hold Shift. I'm going to select that other part of the tail. I'm going to go to Shape Builder. Now I have 2 separate shapes. I'm going to go over here to my fill, and I'm going to push white. I'm going to come to the top part of my tail. I'm going to fill that in white. Now if I push V and click off of it, I have 2 separate shapes. Okay, so I'm going to keep working through this and just show you. So for the face, come over here, going to use this line segment tool. I can draw a line segment from here to here. Again, push V, Shift to select the back shape. Push your shape builder tool. Now you have 2 shapes. Going to go to fill and white. I'm going to fill this bottom shape here. Okay, push V and select to get off of that. Going to get my line segment tool again. Draw another line over here. Push V, Shift to select that back shape. Shape builder tool. Now I have several selected. Now here I'm going to have to erase those lines again. So I'm going to push Option, erase those. Go to my fill, go to white, and go ahead and fill that in. Okay, so now you can see how I'm working at creating those new shapes with the shape builder tool. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to start filling in some of the different colors. So for your assignment, I do want you to go this far with the fox. So you'll need to split the legs, you'll need to split the belly, okay? But for this tutorial, I'm not going to do all of that with you. I'm going to show you how to apply color now. So here's my color palette. Oops. I'm actually going to make this a little smaller so that I have it accessible. Oop. Okay. So for this fox, I am going to select kind of these darker areas here. So if I select and I hold Shift and I click, I can click on all of those 4 areas. Now if I use the eyedropper tool here or push I, it's going to let me select a color. So I'm going to select this orange here. It's going to change those for me. Okay, so I'm going to push V. I'm going to select these other shapes. I'm going to use the eyedropper tool and apply this next color. Okay, and do the foot. Eventually that will be gray because I would have cut it. Alright, so now I have, let's see here, I have all the colors applied. I think this back color needs to be a little bit darker. So I'm actually going to go up here to my swatch, and I'm just going to darken that a little bit by going to this palette, and I'm going to darken that color up a little bit so it looks more like a shadow. There we go. Okay, so now I want to change the outline to my fox. So I'm going to go to layers, and to the silhouette here I have to unlock that. I might lock my details layer. So now I can select that back outline. I'm going to push I, and maybe I'll select this blue. And I don't know if that blue is actually dark enough that there's not very much contrast between that and the fox. So I think what I'll do is I'll go to my fill, and again I will go to the little color palette here, and down here K means black. I'm just going to darken that up a little bit until I have some contrast between the fox and the oranges. Okay, so I'm going to go to the layers, and I'm going to go to the background and select V, select this back rectangle, push I, and select this green color. Ooh, I love that. So I have lots of contrast between the fox and the background color. Okay, so again, for your assignment, you will need to do what I did by creating more shapes inside this fox. Actually, I don't think this color is right. I think it needs to be, maybe it's okay. I don't like how I was gonna make this one a little darker. There we go. And this actually needs to be white. I'm just adjusting a few things here. But so what I want you to do is to go ahead and cut the tail, and then you'll have to cut the belly and make this little shape here, like on this right one, and then also cut the legs and make some place for this dark gray. Okay, so then what you'll end up turning into me is a fox that was just a fox redo, basically. So you will export this. So if I'm exporting this, I would go to File, Export, Export As. You're going to do a ping, and you're going to use the artboard. Remember to pick that, okay? And save it in your homework. Export, and then down here you can use medium 150 and push OK, and that's going to export, and then you can drop that into the homework file that should be on the band app. So that is how you do the fox with the Shape Builder tool.